In order to support our activities, PSPC is requesting a net amount of $4.3 billion through the main estimates.
This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Minister, the home of the Prime Minister, 24 Sussex, is in the news, as it has fallen into a state of disrepair and is currently uninhabitable, as we all know. An article this morning from CBC stated that the National Capital Commission has started construction on 24 Sussex, even though the government has still not decided what should be done with the property. According to a Global News article, the government has delayed a decision on the future of 24 Sussex. The NCC's board chairman wrote a letter to your predecessor, Minister Tassie, yet no action has been taken by this government or by your ministry. Does the government, does your ministry have any plans to deal with 24 Sussex?
Ms. Block. And as you've alluded to, the National Capital Commission has been making some efforts to basically ameliorate all the problems with 24 Sussex Drive. In other words, removal of asbestos, removal of some old mechanical electrical systems that are in place. It's considered a safety issue at this point, and that work has been ongoing over the last couple of months. I do want to point out that the National Capital Commission is obviously a Crown agency at arm's length from government, but of course we are having significant dialogue in terms of developing a plan for the future of 24 Sussex Drive, and we are working with them on that endeavour. Just to point out that 24 Sussex Drive had not seen any significant investment in over 60 years. And so what is being done now is simply for the safety of the property. And going forward, we will be exploring opportunities in the future.
Thank you. So I did read the articles, and it stated that what needed to be done would have to be done, regardless of what the future of 24 Sussex may be. Have there been any conversations in regards to what the future will be of 24 Sussex?
Well, at this point in time, we're exploring a number of different options there. As you've read in the media, the National Capital Commission has been exploring different options, and there have been conversations with our officials in terms of what those might look like. But there has yet to be any decision by Cabinet taken going forward.
Who owns 24 Sussex?
I presume it is the National Capital Commission. They are essentially responsible as a Crown agency of the government.
I am going to return to 24 Sussex because there are still some questions in my mind remaining around the structure of the federal government, the NCC, perhaps even the FHBRO, which is the Federal Heritage Building Review Office, and ultimately who's responsible for what. So the residence is designated as a classified heritage building by the FHBRO. The minister said when I asked who owns 24 Sussex that the NCC does. If you go onto their website, it states that 24 Sussex is being managed by the National Capital Commission, that they have been doing this since 1988. So I guess I'm wondering if you can explain what I see as a discrepancy between owning and managing. And then if you could also perhaps tell us who is funding the abatement for 24 Sussex, and ultimately perhaps the renovation should they occur. I'll leave it there.
Thank you for the question. I should note that I can't speak on behalf of the National Capital Commission, and they have the responsibility for the whole portfolio of official residences. They have commenced work on the abatement that is necessary, and this work is necessary under any future scenario for the property, dealing with hazardous situations, asbestos abatement, et cetera. So that work does need to be done. It's being done by the NCC under their direction. They have a capital fund for the maintenance of all official residences, so it'll be done in that regard. With respect to future decisions, there are some implications that go obviously be outside of the National Capital Commission. The Official Residence Act is an act of Parliament, so there's a legislative dimension. If that were ever to change, there'd be funding that would a major project at 24 Sussex would be beyond the approved budgets of the National Capital Commission, so there'd need to be a funding source. So there are indeed some elements that go beyond the role of the NCC, and you've mentioned another one, the heritage responsibility. But the NCC they're the custodian, the responsible organization, and the owner of the property.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. Perhaps you could clarify what you mean by there are funding requirements that go beyond what the NCC may be prepared to or be able to cover. Does that mean that the Government of Canada would provide funding to that project, and that ultimately it would be the taxpayers that are paying for the renovations at 24 Sussex?
The National Capital Commission has funding for the ongoing maintenance of its capital assets. They got a infusion in a one-time injection of $175 million over 10 years to address deferred maintenance for the entire suite of official residences, but they have not been funded to undertake large projects that were not part of their planned trajectory of work. So there would, I guess what I'm suggesting is that a major undertaking would not be within their current allocation of funding.
Well, I think I understand that. Where would the funding come from?
It would have to be budgeted for the NCC to undertake a significant program of work beyond the maintenance of the capital assets that they've been funded.
So they would budget for that, and is there a funding source that they need to?
It would have to come from the federal budget.
Federal budget.
It would be a budget decision
so
for the NCC.
Ultimately, the taxpayer.
That would be. There's no other funding source that I'm aware of.
Right,
for
but
such a
that was a
project.
really roundabout way of getting to the answer to my question. I'm just trying to make it very clear for anybody who's watching this committee that ultimately 24 Sussex and any renovations that take place there will end up being funded by the taxpayer. And when you take a look at the fact that the National Capital Commission issued warnings to the government that delays would have disastrous effects, I think it behooves the government to act responsibly and to make decisions in a timely way to mitigate those disastrous effects, and to just be upfront and honest with Canadians about, who owns this property ultimately and who will end up footing the bill should the decision be made to renovate 24 Sussex. I'm just going to put it on the record that I really appreciate our historical buildings. I'm sitting on the long-term vision and planning group for the renovation that's taking place at Centre Block, and I'm pleased that we are working so hard to maintain the historical aspects of our parliamentary precinct. And so I am in no way making a statement of judgment on what should happen with 24 Sussex, but stories are now.
That is our time is.